Hello all, I Nirmala Rawat welcome you to my YouTube channel Hari Sadhana 108. In the previous part, Soma narrated to Anusuya and her mother how Sita Mata, disguised in servant's clothing, went to meet a old woman. Now moving on to last part 3 of chapter 18, Soma continues to narrate. It was broad daylight by now, and so we rushed as fast as we could back to the palace. The streets were already filled with people. At one point, Mata stopped as if she had been overcome by the crowds. Are you all right? I asked her. We can stop and rest a few minutes. Mata shook her head and we started again. Right at that moment, a man carrying a huge load rammed into her and Mata fell to the ground. As her head cover blocked most of her face, he couldn't see who she was. He yelled at us, "You servants should stay out of the way." He made a motion as to kick her, but with all my weight I pushed him aside. I lifted Mata to her feet, and for a moment her head covering fell away. A few people had gathered around, and one of them seemed to recognize the Maharani. She quickly covered her head again as I shouted, "Make way for the servants of the Maharani!" And we made our way back to the palace as quickly as possible. Once back in her room, I helped her bathe and change into her clothes. Then I expressed my dismay that a citizen of Ayodhya would have attempted to kick her. He made no apology, Mata, after knocking you down. I was incensed. What is dismaying is that a citizen of Ayodhya would even consider to kick a woman, she replied sadly, no matter who it is. But to raise his foot to you, of all women, Mata? I replied sorrowfully. It doesn't matter that it was me, Soma. It is the same if it is me or any other. I would rather take the hit myself than to see it fall upon another. We have seen today the best and worst of Ayodhya, a woman who has put aside all thought of self in order to serve, and a man who put himself before all others, no matter who he steps on. Let us remember Abhita and hope that she is the future of Ayodhya. At the remembrance of Abhita, a smile crossed Mata's face. Mata, what was it about Abhita that made you give her your precious pendant? I ventured to ask. I know all that she had done, but the pendant? There is more to the story, Soma. In a previous birth, she was a very pious woman from a prominent family in Mithila. Her husband misbehaved and was cursed by a powerful sage. They lost everything and suffered greatly. The husband died, and she was left alone to raise her son, her only surviving child. The others had died due to the curse. The Janak family felt keenly for her and took in her and her son as servants. She was immensely grateful and vowed to dedicate her life to my family in her future births. She served in the household faithfully, but died when she was still quite young. She took a subsequent birth in Mithila and served in the household. Then she was born in Ayodhya, but her devotion to my family never ceased. She has no memory of any of this, and yet that vow she took has remained with her through all these years and births. And somewhere deep inside she knew me to be the descendant of that family. That is what led her to the river to pray for me. What took place was long ago, but her devotion did not die. This is the power of love, Soma. It is carried from one generation to another, from one birth to the next. I was stunned by what I heard. Was she the ancestor of Meenakshi? I asked in disbelief. Mata nodded and replied, Indeed she was. You know that Meenakshi's great-great-grandmother had to suffer her husband's curse, although she had done no wrong. It touched me deeply to see her devotion through all these years and births, devotion that has not died. That is why I gave her my most precious possession. Love is not a stream that flows one way. It must flow in both directions to flourish. The love she gave to Janak family and then that we returned to her and her descendants continued to flow through her prayers by the river, and I came to meet her to acknowledge and return this love. This is the cycle of love that sustains us, and this is how the universe works. I was still absorbing this information when Shri Ram came to get Mata. They had a public audience that morning. During the audience, someone from the public mentioned that a rumor was circulating that earlier in the morning the Maharani had been seen in the street dressed as a servant. The Maharani dressed as a servant? Inquired Shri Ram with a sly smile. How can that be? The man shrugged his shoulders. It is just a rumor, Maharaja, but I hope you can put it to rest. It is not proper for such talk to circulate. It is not proper to be disrespectful of women, replied Shri Ram. I have heard that one of the merchants knocked down a resident of this household and did not help her up. Did any one of our citizens who witnessed this come to her aid? It is not proper to treat a woman in this fashion, and it is not proper to question the actions of the Maharani, he added quietly. Mata did not speak during this exchange, but sat there smiling at the group. The months passed. Mata did not leave the palace much after this episode. I knew that she felt confined, but she never spoke of it. Her only wish was to support Shri Ram. I didn't spend much of time with Mata during that time, only to help in the morning and evening, because most of her time was with Shri Ram. The love that had blossomed between them in the forest was now evident to everyone. It didn't matter whether they were alone or among the whole household. One could feel the intensity of their love and appreciation for each other. Their joy was infectious, and the whole palace seemed to sing with a bubbling happiness. Soon news spread that Mata was with child, and the joy increased even more. Every face in the palace and in the city wore a smile. It seemed that the sorrow of the past 14 years was now fully behind us, and there was so much to look forward to. The household would soon be bursting with the youthful energy of their heir to the throne, Mata's child. What greater joy could there be? So we all thought. But this joy was not to last long. One night, Mata had a dream that ended it all. Soma stopped her narrative here. Opening her eyes, she took in deep breath and turned her eyes to us. When we had begun, there had been only my mother and me. By now, a few more had gathered. Soma nodded to each one of us, and then turning to me, she saw that I had a question. What is it, child? She asked. You may ask anything. When I didn't respond, she encouraged me again. Soma, I began. You said that Abitha was the ancestor of Meenakshi. I paused. Soma nodded and said, That is right. This is what Mata had said. But who is Meenakshi? I asked in a curious voice. Soma smiled, keeping her gaze fixed on me. It is not important, child. She was also from Mithila. She was someone who loved Mata very much. That is all you need to know. Suddenly, my mother seemed very tired. Perhaps we should let you rest, Soma. I also need to take some respite as the heat today is very strong. Hopefully, the rains will come soon. We can return in a few hours. Soma nodded, and although I was hesitant to leave her, I followed my mother back to our cottage, and within minutes of lying down was fast asleep. Jai Shri Ram. Every part, every chapter of the story has a learning. It depends whether we understand and adopt it in our day to day life or just be ignorant and support wrong. Jai Shri Ram. Please let me know your thoughts on this part. Have a wonderful day. Jai Shri Ram.